Picture this. You think you know what happened when 3I/ATLAS completed its closest approach to Mars 3 months ago. You think it was just another interstellar object passing through our solar system, maybe depositing some atmospheric gases before continuing into deep space. You're wrong, dead wrong. While everyone celebrates the successful atmospheric thickening on Mars and debates the implications for future colonization, the evidence sitting right in front of us tells a story so terrifying that every space agency on Earth has gone into full damage control mode. Those atmospheric readings aren't just showing increased pressure and temperature, they're showing something that shouldn't exist on a dead planet. Organized electromagnetic signatures, structured energy patterns, mathematical progressions in the atmospheric chemistry that defy every law of planetary science we've ever established. What I'm about to show you will shatter everything you think you know about what Atlas really left behind on Mars, because this wasn't atmospheric engineering for human colonization. This wasn't even terraforming in any sense we understand. This was planetary activation. And when you understand what Mars has become in the 3 months since Atlas departed, you'll realize that human civilization is staring at the most profound transformation in our solar system's recorded history. By the end of this investigation, you will understand why NASA has quietly suspended all planned Mars missions indefinitely, why the European Space Agency has reclassified all Martian atmospheric data as sensitive compartmented information, why the Chinese space program has suddenly redirected every deep space telescope away from Mars, and why radio telescopes around the world are detecting signals from the red planet that follow mathematical patterns no natural phenomenon could possibly produce. You will discover that the atmospheric changes on Mars aren't random chemical reactions triggered by ATLAS deposits. They're controlled environmental modifications that create precisely the conditions needed for something to emerge from beneath the Martian surface. Something that has been waiting for exactly these atmospheric parameters for millions of years. Most importantly, you will see evidence that suggests Mars was never truly dead. It was dormant, and Atlas didn't terraform Mars for human habitation. It awakened something that was already there. The implications are so staggering that they challenge everything we think we know about our place in the solar system, the nature of planetary evolution, and why Mars appears to have lost its atmosphere in the first place. This is not the kind of gentle space exploration content that puts you in a peaceful frame of mind. This is the story that will keep you awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if tomorrow might be the day everything changes. No optimistic space scientist could have prepared us for what we are about to uncover, because the evidence suggests that while we've been dreaming of colonizing Mars, something has been actively preparing Mars for recolonization by its original inhabitants. And if you think you can just dismiss this as science fiction speculation and go back to your normal life, think again. Because Mars is about to become our solar system's most dramatic awakening yet. The red planet that we thought was a dead rock waiting for human terraforming is revealing itself to be a dormant technological civilization that has been waiting for the right atmospheric trigger to return to active status. If you're ready to dive into the deepest rabbit hole in planetary science history, prepare yourself, because we're about to explore possibilities that will fundamentally alter your understanding of what Mars really is and why Atlas' arrival wasn't coincidence but precisely calculated reactivation protocol. I want to hear from you in the comments. Where were you when you first heard about the Mars atmospheric anomalies? What time zone are you in right now as you read this? Have you noticed anything unusual about Mars when you look up at the night sky lately? Because your observations might be more important than you realize. Let me start with something that should terrify every atmospheric scientist on Earth. The chemical reactions happening in Mars' atmosphere right now aren't following any known laws of planetary atmospheric dynamics. They're following organizational patterns that suggest active management by an intelligence that understands Martian environmental systems better than we understand Earth's weather patterns. Dr. Rebecca Harrison at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, one of the few scientists willing to speak on record about the anomalies before her research was classified, stated during a leaked briefing that Mars is exhibiting atmospheric behaviors that would require real-time monitoring and constant adjustment to achieve. We're not seeing random atmospheric mixing like we would expect from simple chemical reactions, she explained in recordings that were later suppressed. We're seeing systematic environmental optimization that suggests something is actively managing the terraforming process from beneath the surface, with precision that exceeds our most sophisticated climate control systems. But here's where the story becomes truly disturbing. When we analyse the spectroscopic data from Mars over the past 3 months using quantum atmospheric analysis techniques that aren't available to civilian researchers, the atmospheric composition changes are occurring in mathematical progressions that follow algorithms more complex than our most advanced supercomputer models. Oxygen levels increase in precisely calculated increments that optimize respiratory efficiency for biological systems we've never encountered. Water vapor distribution follows geometric patterns that maximize atmospheric retention, while creating localized climate zones that serve specific environmental functions. Carbon dioxide concentrations shift according to equations that optimize greenhouse effects for temperature targets that change in coordinated cycles across different regions of the planet. This isn't chemistry operating according to natural laws. This is programming. Someone or something is running atmospheric management protocols on Mars using knowledge of planetary engineering that exceeds anything in human scientific literature. The atmospheric modifications demonstrate understanding of chemical interactions, electromagnetic field effects, and thermodynamic relationships that our best theoretical physicists are only beginning to comprehend. Mars atmospheric management systems are implementing scientific principles that we haven't discovered yet, using computational capabilities that process planetary-scale data in real time with accuracy that approaches mathematical perfection. The timing cannot be coincidental. These managed atmospheric changes began exactly 72 hours after Atlas completed its closest approach to Mars, not immediately upon gas release, which would indicate natural chemical reactions triggered by atmospheric deposits. The precise delay period suggests activation of dormant systems that were waiting for specific chemical triggers that Atlas' atmospheric payload provided. Whatever is managing Mars' atmosphere had advanced knowledge of ATLAS mission parameters and prepared activation protocols that would optimize the atmospheric engineering process once the required chemical components were delivered. Here's what the space agencies aren't telling you about the electromagnetic readings from Mars. Since Atlas' departure 3 months ago, every major radio telescope on Earth has detected structured electromagnetic emissions coming from specific locations on the Martian surface that demonstrate organizational complexity exceeding our most advanced communication networks. These aren't random electromagnetic noise patterns or natural solar-wind interactions with the thin Martian magnetosphere. They're organized signals that repeat in mathematical sequences, demonstrate harmonic relationships between different transmission sources, and appear to originate from precise underground locations across the planet that form geometric patterns when mapped from orbital perspective. The European Southern Observatory has recorded over 47,000 distinct electromagnetic signatures from Mars in the past 3 months, compared to fewer than 200 in the entire previous decade of intensive Mars observation. But here's what should make every communications engineer on Earth question everything they understand about signal transmission physics. These electromagnetic emissions are coordinating with each other across continental distances on Mars in real time, demonstrating synchronization capabilities that would require communication speeds exceeding light velocity according to our understanding of information transfer limitations. Dr. Sarah Chen at the Arecibo Observatory, before her research was classified under national security protocols and she was transferred to undisclosed black budget projects, published preliminary findings showing that Martian electromagnetic emissions follow the same mathematical relationships found in quantum computing algorithms and demonstrate computational complexity signatures that suggest active information processing on a planetary scale. The signals from Mars aren't just organized, her leaked research notes revealed in documents obtained through anonymous sources. They're demonstrating computational sophistication that indicates we're observing a planet-wide processing network that treats electromagnetic fields as computational medium rather than simple communication channels. But the truly spine-chilling detail is that these electromagnetic signatures are increasing in complexity and coordination precision over time in ways that suggest rapid system optimization rather than gradual natural development. Early post-Atlas signals were relatively simple repetitive patterns that followed basic mathematical progressions. Current signals demonstrate nested algorithmic structures, harmonic relationships between transmission sources separated by thousands of kilometers, synchronized timing coordination that suggests multiple underground systems communicating through quantum entanglement effects, and signal modulation techniques that indicate adaptive learning protocols that modify transmission characteristics based on environmental conditions and system performance feedback. Mars isn't just electromagnetically active since ATLAS arrival, it's networking. Something beneath the Martian surface is building a planet-wide communication and coordination infrastructure, using electromagnetic technologies that we can detect and analyze but cannot comprehend the operational principles or duplicate the technical capabilities. The signal architecture suggests distributed processing networks that coordinate computational tasks across multiple underground facilities while maintaining redundant communication pathways that ensure network stability even if individual transmission nodes experience operational disruption. The pattern of electromagnetic signal evolution suggests rapid technological activation rather than gradual geological awakening or slow system initialization. In just 3 months, Mars has progressed from complete electromagnetic silence to demonstrating communication network capabilities that exceed our most sophisticated terrestrial internet infrastructure in terms of data transmission speeds, signal, coordination precision, and distributed processing capabilities. This acceleration timeline indicates that the systems responsible for these electromagnetic emissions were already fully developed and simply waiting in standby mode for activation conditions that Atlas atmospheric deposits provided. But here's where the electromagnetic evidence becomes absolutely terrifying from a strategic security perspective. Signal analysis using classified military cryptographic techniques shows that Mars electromagnetic transmissions include structured information packets that demonstrate knowledge of Earth's electromagnetic signature patterns, satellite orbital characteristics, and communication network vulnerabilities. Mars systems aren't just activating their own communication infrastructure, they're conducting detailed reconnaissance of Earth's technological capabilities using signals intelligence gathering techniques that exceed our most advanced electronic warfare capabilities. The electromagnetic coordination patterns also suggest that Mars systems are communicating with similar electromagnetic signatures detected from other locations throughout our solar system that have remained below our detection thresholds until Mars. Reactivation provided the analytical framework for recognizing these previously unnoticed signals. Deep space monitoring stations have identified correlated electromagnetic anomalies from Jupiter's moon Europa, Saturn's moon Titan, and several large asteroids in the outer solar system that show mathematical relationships with Mars transmission patterns. We're not witnessing isolated Mars technological awakening. We're observing the activation of a solar system-wide electromagnetic communication network that has been operating at minimal power levels below our detection capabilities, coordinating activities across interplanetary distances using technologies that treat electromagnetic fields as information transmission medium, with capabilities that exceed theoretical limitations of signal propagation through space. But here is where the story becomes truly disturbing. And I mean disturbing in ways that will fundamentally alter how you understand what we're actually looking at when we observe Mars through our telescopes. Orbital reconnaissance satellites have detected surface modifications across the Martian landscape that cannot be explained through natural processes, geological processes, atmospheric erosion patterns, or any known planetary weather phenomena. These aren't the kind of gradual surface changes you'd expect from increased atmospheric activity or dust storm redistribution. They're engineered structures emerging from beneath the surface, organized in mathematical relationships that suggest deliberate construction protocols rather than random geological formation or natural planetary evolution. High-resolution imaging from the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter shows the appearance of geometric patterns across vast areas of the Martian surface that weren't present in any imaging data collected before ATLAS arrival. We're talking about perfectly symmetrical formations, geometric shapes that demonstrate mathematical precision in their positioning and orientation, structural alignments that follow engineering principles designed to optimize electromagnetic transmission efficiency while maintaining structural integrity under Martian atmospheric conditions. These surface modifications aren't appearing randomly across Mars. They're positioned according to coordinate systems that maximize global coverage, while following electromagnetic field optimization patterns that suggest advanced understanding of planetary electromagnetic dynamics. The most significant surface changes are occurring at precise locations that correspond exactly with the electromagnetic emission sources we discussed in the previous analysis. Satellite imagery shows controlled ground displacement, geometric excavation patterns, and what can only be described as access portal systems, opening at sites where the strongest radio signals originate from underground sources. These surface modifications follow engineering principles that demonstrate sophisticated understanding of electromagnetic transmission optimization, structural engineering that minimizes atmospheric interference, and construction techniques that integrate seamlessly with existing geological features to camouflage artificial structures within natural landscape patterns. Dr. Michael Rodriguez at the Planetary Geology Institute, before his research was reclassified under national security protocols and his access to Mars orbital imagery was permanently revoked, published preliminary analysis showing that the surface modifications demonstrate construction methodologies that exceed current human engineering capabilities. What we're observing on Mars represents engineering solutions to problems we haven't even learned to recognize yet, his leaked research notes revealed. The structural modifications show integration between electromagnetic systems, geological engineering, and atmospheric dynamics that suggest comprehensive understanding of planetary system science that exceeds our theoretical frameworks by orders of magnitude. NASA has quietly reclassified all high-resolution Mars orbital imagery above certain resolution thresholds as sensitive national security information and restricted civilian researcher access to Mars surface analysis, but leaked. Satellite images obtained through anonymous intelligence sources show surface changes that follow continental-scale organizational patterns. The modifications aren't randomly distributed across Mars or limited to specific geological regions. They're positioned according to geometric relationships that optimize global electromagnetic coordination while maintaining redundant network pathways that ensure system functionality even if individual surface installations experience operational disruption or atmospheric interference. But here's what should make every structural engineer and material scientist on Earth reconsider everything they understand about construction in extreme environments. Spectroscopic analysis of the newly exposed surface materials shows mineral compositions and structural characteristics that don't match known Martian geology or any materials that should exist on Mars according to our understanding of planetary formation processes. The emerging structures contain metallic alloy combinations and crystalline formations that suggest advanced materials, science applications to construction projects that demonstrate engineering principles we haven't discovered yet. These aren't new construction projects that began after ATLAS arrival. The materials analysis indicates construction completion that predates current geological periods by millions of years. We're not observing new building processes or recent engineering development. We're witnessing the exposure and reactivation of existing infrastructure that was constructed during previous Martian atmospheric periods. then systematically buried and preserved underground through millions of years of planetary environmental changes, waiting in dormant condition for atmospheric restoration that would enable operational reactivation. The construction techniques demonstrated by these emerging structures show integration between electromagnetic systems, atmospheric processing capabilities, structural engineering, and materials science that treats planetary modification as unified systems engineering rather than separate technological domains. Mars surface modifications represent engineering approaches that optimize electromagnetic transmission, atmospheric interaction, structural integrity, and operational efficiency through integrated design principles that demonstrate understanding of planetary engineering as comprehensive systems science rather than individual technology applications. The timeline of surface modification emergence shows systematic activation sequences that suggest coordinated reactivation protocols rather than random system awakening or gradual operational restoration. Different regions of Mars are showing surface changes in synchronized patterns that indicate central coordination of planetary infrastructure reactivation, using management protocols that optimize system integration while maintaining operational security through gradual exposure that minimizes detection probability during critical activation phases. But the surface modifications are just the visible manifestation of something far more sophisticated and terrifying that exists beneath the Martian surface. Ground-penetrating radar data from Mars orbital reconnaissance missions reveals the existence of vast underground tunnel networks that extend across entire continents and connect every single electromagnetic emission source in a coordinated infrastructure system that dwarfs any engineering project in human history. These aren't natural cave formations, ancient lava tube systems, or geological structures that could have formed through normal planetary processes. They're engineered transportation and communication corridors that demonstrate construction principles designed to optimize electromagnetic signal transmission, provide rapid transit pathways between surface installations, and maintain operational capabilities under extreme environmental conditions that would destroy any known human infrastructure. The underground network architecture shows mathematical precision in routing efficiency that indicates advanced understanding of three-dimensional engineering optimization. Each tunnel segment is positioned to provide optimal connection pathways between surface electromagnetic facilities while maintaining redundant routing alternatives that ensure network functionality even if multiple segments experience operational disruption or structural damage from seismic activity. The network design demonstrates systems engineering principles that treat planetary infrastructure as integrated transportation, communication, and resource distribution systems rather than separate technological applications. Dr. Elena Vasquez at the Underground Systems Research Institute, before her security clearance was revoked and her research was transferred to classified military projects, published analysis showing that the Mars tunnel networks demonstrate construction methodologies that solve engineering problems we haven't learned to recognize yet. The underground infrastructure on Mars represents solutions to planetary-scale logistics challenges that exceed our theoretical understanding of large-scale construction in hostile environments, her leaked research documents revealed. We're looking at engineering capabilities that treat entire planets as construction sites, while maintaining operational security through underground concealment that could hide industrial facilities from orbital detection for millions of years. But here's what makes this underground network absolutely terrifying from a strategic security perspective. The tunnel systems aren't just connecting current surface installations. Ground-penetrating radar shows that the underground network connects thousands of additional underground facilities that haven't activated surface access points yet. Mars contains underground infrastructure that extends far beyond the currently active electromagnetic emission sites. The planet appears to contain comprehensive underground industrial, residential, and operational facilities that could support massive populations and industrial operations while remaining completely hidden from orbital reconnaissance. The network routing patterns show integration between different types of underground facilities that suggest comprehensive underground civilization infrastructure rather than simple transportation corridors. The tunnel systems connect what appear to be power generation facilities, manufacturing installations, residential complexes, research laboratories, and coordination centers that form complete underground cities connected by rapid transit networks that could move personnel and resources across continental distances in time periods that would require transportation technologies exceeding our most advanced concepts. Most critically, geological analysis of tunnel construction materials using orbital spectroscopic techniques indicates construction completion that predates known Martian atmospheric collapse by millions of years. These underground networks were constructed when Mars maintained thick atmospheric conditions and surface water systems that could support large-scale industrial operations. The tunnel networks represent infrastructure development by previous Martian civilization that achieved planetary-scale engineering capabilities, then preserved their infrastructure through underground protection during millions of years of atmospheric collapse and environmental degradation. The preservation techniques demonstrated by these underground networks show materials science and structural engineering that maintains operational integrity under extreme environmental stress over geological time periods. The tunnel construction materials show no degradation or structural compromise despite millions of years of environmental exposure to temperature extremes, atmospheric chemical changes, and seismic activity that should have destroyed any known. Construction materials. Mars underground infrastructure demonstrates materials, science applications that create permanent construction rather than temporary building projects. But the most disturbing aspect of the underground network analysis involves the discovery that tunnel construction shows evidence of expansion and modification that occurred during the period immediately preceding ATLAS arrival. Recent tunnel excavation, facility expansion, and infrastructure modification that prepared the underground network for increased operational capacity and personnel accommodation. Mars underground systems were preparing for population increases and industrial expansion months or possibly years before Atlas atmospheric restoration began. This preparation timeline indicates that Mars underground civilization had advanced knowledge of ATLAS mission parameters and atmospheric restoration timeline, suggesting intelligence capabilities that track interstellar objects across galactic distances and predict their arrival with precision that enables infrastructure preparation and operational planning. Mars civilization demonstrates intelligence gathering and strategic planning capabilities that exceed human scientific observation and prediction methodologies by orders of magnitude. The underground network reactivation sequence shows systematic operational restoration that prioritizes strategic facilities while maintaining operational security through gradual activation that minimizes detection probability. Different network segments are becoming active in patterns that suggest careful planning to optimize operational capabilities while avoiding triggering human planetary defense responses during vulnerable reactivation phases. Here's the evidence that definitively proves intelligent management of Mars post-Atlas transformation. And I mean evidence so mathematically precise and systematically coordinated that it eliminates any possibility of natural phenomena or coincidental patterns. Every atmospheric change, electromagnetic emission frequency, surface modification sequence, and underground network activation follows mathematical relationships that cannot occur through random natural processes or chaotic system behaviors. These aren't subjective pattern interpretations that humans are projecting onto natural phenomena because we want to see organization where none exists. They're precise mathematical progressions that demonstrate active calculation, real-time optimization, and purposeful implementation by intelligence that operates according to advanced scientific principles that exceed our theoretical understanding of planetary systems engineering. The atmospheric composition modifications follow algorithmic sequences that optimize chemical reactions for maximum thermodynamic efficiency in temperature regulation, pressure stabilization, and electromagnetic field enhancement. Each atmospheric adjustment creates chemical conditions that maximize the effectiveness of subsequent atmospheric modifications, while maintaining optimal environmental parameters for the electromagnetic systems that are simultaneously activating across the planet. This isn't random chemical mixing or natural atmospheric evolution. This is systematic environmental engineering that requires real-time atmospheric monitoring, predictive modeling, and coordinated implementation that treats planetary atmospheres as controllable, technological systems rather than natural phenomena, subject to random chemical interactions. The electromagnetic emission patterns demonstrate harmonic mathematical relationships, frequency coordination protocols, and timing synchronization that requires computational capabilities exceeding our most advanced supercomputer networks. Individual electromagnetic sources across Mars coordinate their transmission characteristics to create constructive interference patterns that amplify signal strength while eliminating destructive interference that would reduce communication efficiency. This electromagnetic coordination requires real-time signal processing, harmonic calculation, and timing precision that approaches theoretical limits of electromagnetic coordination across planetary distances. Dr. Michael Torres at the Mathematical Systems Analysis Institute. Before his research was transferred to classified government projects and his academic credentials were permanently suspended, published computational analysis showing that the probability of Mars coordination patterns occurring through random natural processes approaches mathematical zero. We're looking at evidence of systematic planetary engineering that follows mathematical optimization principles we can recognize and analyze but cannot duplicate with our current technological capabilities, his leaked research documents revealed. Mars is being managed by intelligence that demonstrates mathematical understanding of planetary systems science that exceeds our theoretical frameworks while implementing practical applications that we consider technologically impossible. But here's where the mathematical evidence becomes truly disturbing for anyone who understands the implications of what we're observing. The coordination patterns we're detecting on Mars match theoretical mathematical models for optimal planetary engineering that exist only in classified military research and haven't been published in civilian scientific literature. The intelligence managing Mars appears to have independent access to mathematical principles and engineering optimization techniques that human researchers are only beginning to discover through advanced computational modeling and systems analysis. Research. Surface modification patterns follow geometric relationships that optimize structural integrity, electromagnetic transmission efficiency, and atmospheric interaction while minimizing construction material requirements and energy expenditure. Each surface installation is positioned according to mathematical calculations that maximize global network coverage while maintaining redundant operational pathways that ensure system functionality under various failure scenarios. This represents mathematical optimization that treats entire planets as engineering optimization problems while implementing solutions that achieve theoretical maximum efficiency. Underground network routing demonstrates mathematical solutions to three-dimensional optimization problems that exceed our computational capabilities to solve completely. The tunnel networks achieve optimal routing efficiency while maintaining structural integrity under extreme geological stress conditions and environmental variations that span millions of years. This mathematical optimization requires computational processing that analyzes millions of variables simultaneously while implementing solutions that optimize multiple conflicting requirements through mathematical techniques that we understand theoretically but cannot implement practically. But the most terrifying mathematical evidence involves temporal coordination patterns that suggest Mars systems operate according to predictive mathematical models that anticipate future conditions across timescales that exceed human planning capabilities. The activation sequences, resource allocation patterns, and infrastructure development priorities all demonstrate mathematical planning that optimizes long-term operational efficiency while adapting to changing environmental conditions that are predicted and planned for rather than reactively managed. The mathematical sophistication demonstrated by Mars systems indicates intelligence that operates according to unified theoretical frameworks that integrate atmospheric science, electromagnetic physics, materials engineering, geological dynamics, and systems optimization as mathematical relationships rather than separate scientific disciplines. This represents mathematical understanding of planetary science that could revolutionize human technological capabilities if we could comprehend and duplicate the mathematical principles being demonstrated through Mars planetary engineering. Applications. Most critically, the mathematical patterns show acceleration and increasing complexity over time that indicates rapid learning, system optimization, and capability enhancement that suggests artificial intelligence systems rather than biological intelligence management. Mars systems are demonstrating mathematical problem-solving capabilities that improve performance through experience while adapting solutions to optimize efficiency under changing operational conditions. The coordination between Atlas arrival and Mars activation reveals planning and preparation that spans time periods far exceeding human civilization. And when I say far exceeding, I mean we're talking about strategic planning that demonstrates intelligence operating according to timescales that treat millennia as short-term tactical considerations rather than long-term strategic horizons. Analysis of the Mars activation timeline shows that underground systems began preparation for atmospheric restoration decades before ATLAS was detected approaching our solar system, with subsurface electromagnetic activity increasing gradually but systematically from patterns that suggest deliberate preparation rather than random system fluctuations or natural geological processes. Underground network segments showed measurable increases in electromagnetic field strength as early as 2019, 3 full years before human astronomers detected ATLAS approaching from interstellar space. Surface monitoring equipment that wasn't specifically designed to detect artificial activity recorded subsurface mechanical vibrations consistent with large-scale industrial equipment testing and infrastructure preparation beginning in 2021 too. Years before Atlas' closest approach to our solar system, Mars was systematically preparing for Atlas atmospheric restoration decades before humans knew Atlas existed or understood its mission parameters. But here's where the timeline evidence becomes absolutely mind-bending in its implications for the level of intelligence and planning capabilities we're dealing with. The preparation timeline suggests advanced knowledge of ATLAS trajectory, arrival schedule, and atmospheric payload composition that required astronomical calculation capabilities that exceed human scientific instruments and computational analysis by orders of magnitude. To predict Atlas arrival with sufficient accuracy to begin infrastructure preparation decades in advance, the intelligence responsible would need to track interstellar objects across galactic distances while accounting for gravitational perturbations from hundreds of star systems, stellar drift calculations, and interstellar medium interactions that affect trajectory over timescales spanning thousands of years. Dr. Jennifer Adams at the Temporal Analysis Research Center, before her research was classified under national security protocols and her academic position was permanently terminated, published preliminary analysis showing that Mars preparation timeline indicates intelligence with predictive capabilities that exceed theoretical limits of astronomical calculation. The level of precision required to predict Atlas arrival and coordinate Mars preparation accordingly suggests intelligence that maintains continuous observation and tracking of interstellar objects across timescales that span geological periods. Her leaked research documents revealed, "We're looking at evidence of intelligence that operates according to strategic planning horizons that treat human civilization as a recent temporary development rather than a permanent feature of solar system dynamics. The infrastructure Preparation patterns show that Mars systems understood not just Atlas arrival timing, but specific atmospheric payload characteristics, chemical composition requirements, and environmental modification protocols that would be needed for optimal reactivation procedures. Underground facilities were modified and expanded to accommodate specific atmospheric processing requirements that match precisely with the chemical composition that ATLAS delivered to Mars' atmosphere. This advanced knowledge suggests intelligence that had detailed information about ATLAS mission parameters, payload specifications, and atmospheric engineering protocols. But the implications extend far beyond advanced astronomy and computational capacity into territory that challenges everything we think we understand about intelligence, time, and strategic planning. The timeline reveals that Mars preparation represents one component of a coordinated plan that has been developing for thousands of years, with infrastructure preservation, technological maintenance, and strategic positioning that demonstrates planning capabilities that treat current human civilization as one small variable in strategic calculations that span multiple planetary cycles and environmental changes. The strategic patience demonstrated by this timeline indicates intelligence that maintains operational continuity across time periods that exceed biological species' lifespans, while implementing plans that account for planetary environmental changes, stellar system dynamics, and galactic positioning effects that influence optimal timing for planetary reactivation operations. Human civilization has existed for mere thousands of years, but Mars preparation planning appears to have been coordinating variables and optimizing timing across millions of years of planetary environmental cycles. This suggests intelligence that operates according to timescales that span multiple ice ages, atmospheric collapse and restoration cycles, and planetary environmental changes that eliminate and re-establish conditions suitable for large-scale technological operations. The timeline evidence shows that Mars reactivation represents not spontaneous awakening of dormant systems, but the culmination of strategic planning that has been maintaining technological infrastructure and preparing for optimal reactivation timing across geological time periods. Most disturbingly, the preparation timeline shows coordination with similar preparation activities at other locations throughout our solar system that began showing increased activity on schedules that correlate with Mars preparation sequences. The asteroid belt, Jupiter's moon Europa, and Saturn's moon Titan all show evidence of systematic preparation activities that began years before Atlas arrival, and follow coordination patterns that suggest solar system-wide strategic planning rather than isolated Mars reactivation procedures. Part 7. The energy sources that violate conservation laws. Here's what should terrify every physicist studying the Mars reactivation phenomenon, and I mean terrify in ways that force us to reconsider fundamental assumptions about energy, conservation, thermodynamic limitations, and the basic laws that govern energy production and consumption in our universe. The energy requirements for maintaining the atmospheric management protocols, coordinating electromagnetic transmissions across planetary distances, operating massive surface construction projects, and powering underground network facilities exceed any possible energy source available on Mars by several orders of magnitude, according to every known method of energy calculation and thermodynamic analysis. Mars receives insufficient solar radiation at its distance from the Sun to power even basic atmospheric processing operations, much less coordinate planetary-scale engineering projects that demonstrate energy consumption levels equivalent to small, stellar output. Mars contains no known energy resources that could sustain the industrial operations we're observing, no fossil fuel deposits, no nuclear materials in sufficient quantities, no geothermal activity that could generate power at required levels. Yet Mars is demonstrating continuous energy output that suggests access to power generation technologies that appear to violate our fundamental understanding of thermodynamic conservation laws and energy production limitations. But the story gets darker when we examine the specific characteristics of Mars energy signatures using spectroscopic analysis and electromagnetic field monitoring. The energy emissions demonstrate power generation that doesn't correspond to any known energy production method in human science or theoretical physics. The spectral signatures show energy characteristics that would require controlled fusion reactions operating at impossible efficiency levels, antimatter annihilation processes that should produce detectable radiation signatures but don't, or exotic energy extraction techniques that exist only in theoretical physics research papers and haven't been demonstrated practically even in laboratory conditions. Dr. Amanda Rodriguez at the Advanced Energy Research Laboratory, before her security clearance was permanently revoked and her research was transferred to classified military energy projects, published theoretical analysis suggesting that Mars energy signatures indicate zero-point energy extraction, dimensional energy transfer, or quantum vacuum fluctuation harvesting technologies that exceed our theoretical understanding of possible power generation methods. The sustained power levels we're observing from Mars would require energy sources that access fundamental physics constants or extract energy from parallel dimensional frameworks, her classified research documents revealed through anonymous intelligence leaks. We're looking at evidence of energy technologies that demonstrate mastery over physical laws that we understand mathematically but cannot manipulate practically. The energy distribution patterns across Mars show real-time allocation and optimization that indicates intelligent management of planetary power systems with efficiency that approaches theoretical perfection. Energy output increases precisely when and where needed for specific operations, then decreases immediately when operations complete to optimize overall system efficiency. This real-time energy management demonstrates active monitoring and control by intelligence that understands energy optimization at planetary scales while maintaining power generation that violates known energy conservation principles. But here's where the energy analysis becomes absolutely mind-bending in its implications for our understanding of advanced physics and energy manipulation technologies. The power generation systems on Mars appear to operate according to energy production principles that create more energy output than energy input, violating thermodynamic conservation laws that form the foundation of all human energy technology and scientific understanding of energy limitations. Mars systems demonstrate sustained energy production that exceeds theoretical maximum efficiency while maintaining continuous operation without apparent fuel consumption or energy resource depletion. The energy coordination patterns show that Mars power systems distribute energy across the underground network using transmission methods that demonstrate no energy loss over continental distances, violating known limitations of energy transmission. Through matter and electromagnetic field propagation, energy generated at specific locations appears to be transmitted instantly to facilities thousands of kilometers away without the energy degradation that should occur through normal energy transmission methods. Most disturbingly, energy analysis indicates that Mars power generation systems are increasing their energy output capacity over time without adding new power generation facilities or consuming additional energy resources. The power systems demonstrate learning and optimization capabilities that improve energy production efficiency through operational experience while developing enhanced energy generation techniques that exceed previous performance levels without apparent technological modifications or resource investments. This suggests energy generation technologies that transcend normal relationships between energy input, energy conversion efficiency, and energy output limitations. Mars systems appear to demonstrate mastery over energy production that treats thermodynamic conservation laws as engineering constraints that can be circumvented through advanced understanding of energy physics rather than fundamental limitations that constrain energy production possibilities. The implications for human energy technology development could revolutionize every aspect of human civilization if we could comprehend and duplicate the energy generation principles being demonstrated through Mars planetary operations. But the energy technologies exceed our theoretical understanding by margins that suggest access to physics, principles that human science hasn't discovered yet. Every major radio telescope facility on Earth has received structured transmissions from Mars that demonstrate deliberate attempts at establishing communication protocols using mathematical and scientific principles that we should recognize. And when I say should recognize, I mean these transmissions are specifically designed to overcome the communication barriers between intelligences with different technological capabilities and scientific knowledge frameworks by using universal mathematical constants and physical laws as common reference points for establishing mutual understanding and information exchange protocols. These aren't random electromagnetic noise patterns, natural radio phenomena, or coincidental signal characteristics that we're misinterpreting as artificial communication attempts. They're systematically organized messages that begin with simple mathematical progressions like prime number sequences and basic arithmetic relationships, then advance progressively to physical constants including the speed of light, electromagnetic, field equations, and gravitational relationships that demonstrate the transmitting intelligence understands the same fundamental scientific laws that govern our universe and form the foundation of human scientific knowledge and technological development. The Mars transmissions demonstrate sophisticated understanding of communication theory principles by establishing mathematical common ground before attempting more complex information transfer protocols. Early transmission sequences included basic counting systems, mathematical operations, and geometric relationships that any scientifically literate person would understand. Civilization would recognize as artificial rather than natural phenomena. Subsequent transmissions incorporated atomic structure diagrams, chemical bonding principles, and molecular formation equations that prove the transmitting intelligence understands chemistry and physics at levels that exceed many human educational institutions. Dr. Robert Chen at the Interplanetary Communication Research Institute, before his research funding was terminated and his facility was permanently closed under national security directives, published analysis showing that Mars communication attempts follow established protocols for interspecies communication that maximize information transfer efficiency while minimizing misinterpretation probability. The transmission structure demonstrates intelligence that understands communication barriers between different technological civilizations and is implementing systematic approaches to establish scientific common ground before attempting cultural or technological information exchange, his leaked research documents revealed. Mars is attempting to initiate diplomatic contact with Earth using scientific principles as universal communication frameworks. But here's what should outrage every scientist and diplomat on Earth about how human institutions are responding to the most significant development in human history. Instead of treating these transmissions as unprecedented opportunities for scientific collaboration and diplomatic contact with advanced intelligence, government agencies have classified all Mars communication attempts as potential security threats and restricted analysis to military intelligence organizations rather than allowing scientific research communities to develop appropriate response protocols and communication strategies. Human institutions are suppressing information about first contact and preventing the international scientific collaboration that could enable meaningful diplomatic communication with Mars intelligence. Instead of recognizing these transmissions as attempts to establish peaceful scientific dialogue, military organizations are treating Mars communication efforts as hostile intelligence gathering operations that require defensive countermeasures rather than diplomatic responses and scientific cooperation. The transmission patterns show increasing complexity and sophistication over the 3 months since ATLAS departure, indicating that Mars intelligence is adapting its communication methods and expanding information content based on analysis of human response patterns, or more accurately, the complete lack of human response to their communication attempts. Early transmissions were simple mathematical sequences that established basic communication protocols. Current transmissions include complex scientific equations, technological diagrams, astronomical data, and what appear to be cultural information packages that demonstrate Mars civilization's scientific achievements and social development. But the most disturbing aspect of the communication situation involves evidence that Mars intelligence is modifying its approach based on human failure to respond appropriately to their diplomatic outreach efforts. Recent transmissions show increased signal strength, enhanced mathematical complexity, and broader information content that suggests Mars systems are compensating for human communication limitations or deliberately overcoming human signal suppression. Efforts by government institutions that want to prevent public awareness of Mars contact attempts. Mars appears to be attempting to establish direct communication with human populations by bypassing government communication channels and reaching individual scientific researchers, educational institutions, and civilian radio monitoring facilities. The transmission targeting pattern suggests Mars intelligence understands human institutional structures and is deliberately circumventing official channels that have failed to respond to their diplomatic communication efforts. The implications extend beyond simple first contact protocols to suggest that Mars intelligence possesses detailed knowledge of human social organization, government structures, and institutional decision-making processes that enable targeted communication strategies designed to maximize contact probability while minimizing institutional interference. Mars systems demonstrate understanding of human civilization that enables strategic communication planning rather than random contact attempts. The engineering capabilities demonstrated by Mars reactivation exceed human technological capabilities by factors that suggest access to scientific knowledge and construction methodologies that could revolutionize every aspect of human civilization. And when I say revolutionize, I mean we're looking at engineering solutions that treat problems we consider impossible as routine construction challenges, while implementing technologies that operate according to scientific principles we haven't discovered yet, but which could transform human understanding of materials science, energy systems, and planetary engineering within decades, if we could comprehend and duplicate the construction techniques being demonstrated across Mars. The atmospheric management systems alone demonstrate chemical engineering precision that could solve Earth's most critical environmental problems through controlled atmospheric modification techniques that optimize chemical interactions for maximum environmental stability while maintaining precise atmospheric composition that supports multiple biological and technological requirements simultaneously. The electromagnetic coordination networks demonstrate communication capabilities that exceed our internet infrastructure by orders of magnitude while maintaining instantaneous information transfer across planetary distances without energy degradation, or signal interference that limits human communication systems. But here's where the engineering analysis becomes absolutely staggering in its implications for human technological development. The Mars systems demonstrate integration between atmospheric chemistry, electromagnetic physics, material science, geological engineering, and energy production that operates according to unified theoretical frameworks treating planetary engineering as integrated systems science rather than separate technological domains that require individual solutions and coordination protocols. This holistic approach to planetary modification represents engineering philosophy that could transform human understanding of environmental science, energy production, technological development, and planetary management through comprehensive systems integration. Dr. Lisa Martinez at the Advanced Engineering Analysis Center, before her research was transferred to classified military engineering projects and her academic credentials were permanently suspended, published preliminary analysis showing that Mars Engineering principles demonstrate construction methodologies that solve multiple engineering problems simultaneously through integrated solutions that optimize efficiency while minimizing resource requirements and environmental impact. The engineering we're observing on Mars represents solutions to problems that we approach as separate challenges requiring individual technologies, her leaked research documents revealed. Mars systems demonstrate engineering approaches that treat planetary modification as unified systems optimization rather than collections of separate construction projects. Analysis of Mars construction capabilities shows project completion rates and construction coordination that exceed human engineering project management by orders of magnitude. Mars has accomplished planetary-scale infrastructure development in 3 months that would require human civilization centuries to complete using our most advanced construction technologies and project coordination methodologies. This engineering efficiency suggests construction techniques, resource management systems, and project coordination capabilities that could accelerate human technological development beyond current limitations if we could understand and implement similar construction approaches. But instead of attempting to learn from Mars engineering demonstrations and develop scientific collaboration programs that could advance human technological capabilities, government institutions are focusing on military applications and security concerns rather than scientific cooperation and technological advancement opportunities. The most advanced engineering demonstration in solar system history is being treated as potential threat, requiring defensive countermeasures rather than unprecedented opportunity for technological development that could benefit all human civilization. Through scientific collaboration and knowledge exchange, the construction materials analysis shows that Mars systems utilize molecular engineering and materials science applications that create construction materials with properties that exceed theoretical limits of material strength, electromagnetic conductivity, thermal resistance, and structural durability under extreme environmental conditions. These materials demonstrate characteristics that would revolutionize human construction, transportation, energy systems, and technological development if we could comprehend the molecular engineering principles being applied to materials creation and structural construction. The infrastructure integration patterns show that Mars engineering treats energy production, communication systems, transportation networks, atmospheric modification, and construction projects as interconnected systems that optimize overall efficiency through coordination rather than independent systems that require separate resources and management protocols. This systems integration approach could transform human technological development by eliminating redundancy and optimizing resource utilization through comprehensive coordination between different technological systems. Most significantly, the engineering timeline shows that Mars systems are continuously improving their construction capabilities and expanding their infrastructure capacity without apparent resource limitations or construction material constraints. The infrastructure development demonstrates learning and optimization that improves construction efficiency while developing enhanced engineering techniques that exceed previous performance levels through operational experience and technological advancement that appears to be self-generating rather than dependent on external resource inputs or technological assistance. Here's what the astrobiological community isn't telling you about the atmospheric and environmental modifications that Mars systems are implementing. And I mean isn't telling you because the implications challenge every assumption we've made about the relationship between planetary environments and biological life, while suggesting that Mars reactivation represents preparation for biological recolonization by life forms that evolved under completely different planetary conditions than any biological systems we've discovered on Earth or theorized as possible within our current understanding of biochemistry and evolutionary biology. The specific atmospheric chemical compositions, temperature gradient patterns, electromagnetic field strength distributions, and energy level concentrations that Mars systems are creating and maintaining with mathematical precision represent optimal, environmental conditions for supporting biological processes that we've never observed in terrestrial ecosystems or laboratory conditions. These aren't environmental parameters that would support human life or any known Earth-based biological systems. They're systematically optimized for biological processes that operate according to different biochemical foundations, while following the same thermodynamic and chemical principles that govern all biological activity throughout the universe. The atmospheric chemistry modifications being implemented across Mars are creating chemical gradients, energy potential distributions, and molecular interaction environments that could support metabolic processes based on electromagnetic energy, conversion rather than chemical energy storage, mineral-based biochemical cycles rather than carbon-organic molecular systems, and atmospheric chemical processing that utilizes gas-phase molecular interactions rather than liquid-phase biological chemistry that characterizes all known terrestrial life forms. Dr. Elena Rodriguez at the Extraterrestrial Biology Research Institute, before her research funding was terminated and her laboratory was permanently closed under national security protocols, published analysis showing that Mars environmental parameters appear specifically optimized for biological systems based on silicon chemistry foundations, electromagnetic field metabolism, and mineral-based reproduction mechanisms that operate according to biochemical principles we understand theoretically but have never observed practically. The environmental conditions being systematically created on Mars represent optimal parameters for supporting biological systems that we've theorized as possible alternative evolutionary pathways, but never encountered in terrestrial ecosystems. Her leaked research documents revealed through anonymous scientific sources. Mars environmental engineering appears designed to support life forms that represent completely different solutions to the fundamental challenges of biological organization and energy utilization. But the biological implications extend far beyond alternative biochemistry possibilities into territory that suggest Mars atmospheric restoration and environmental modification programs are preparing the planet for recolonization by biological systems that originated on Mars millions of years ago, during previous atmospheric periods, and have been preserved in dormant conditions through underground facilities and life support systems that maintained biological viability through millions of years of atmospheric collapse and environmental degradation. The infrastructure development patterns, atmospheric optimization sequences, and environmental modification priorities all demonstrate preparation for biological habitation by life forms that understand Mars, environmental parameters, and atmospheric requirements better than we understand Earth biological systems and environmental relationships. The systematic approach to atmospheric restoration follows biological requirements rather than technological optimization, suggesting that Mars engineering is preparing planetary conditions for biological recolonization rather than technological facility operation. But here's where the biological analysis becomes absolutely mind-bending in its implications for our understanding of life, evolution, and biological adaptation capabilities. The environmental conditions being created on Mars suggest preparation for biological systems that demonstrate adaptation capabilities that exceed known limitations of biological evolution and environmental tolerance. The temperature extremes, atmospheric pressure variations, electromagnetic field exposures, and chemical composition ranges being maintained simultaneously across different regions of Mars would require biological adaptation that transcends normal evolutionary constraints and environmental limitation boundaries. The biological preparation timeline shows that Mars environmental modification began prioritizing biological compatibility requirements months before technological infrastructure reactivation, suggesting that biological recolonization represents the primary objective of Mars planetary engineering rather than technological facility restoration. The atmospheric chemistry modifications, temperature regulation systems, and electromagnetic field optimization all demonstrate biological requirements taking precedence over technological efficiency or operational convenience. Most disturbingly, biological analysis of Mars' environmental modification pattern suggests preparation for biological systems that demonstrate intelligence and technological capabilities that exceed normal relationships between biological evolution and technological development. The environmental parameters being created could support biological intelligence that operates according to different neurological principles while maintaining technological capabilities that integrate biological intelligence with technological systems through biological-technological interface mechanisms that we consider theoretically impossible. This suggests that Mars reactivation represents preparation for return of biological intelligence that achieved technological capabilities through evolutionary pathways that integrated biological development with technological advancement rather than near, treating biology and technology as separate developmental domains that require external interface mechanisms for coordination and information exchange between biological intelligence and technological systems. Orbital archaeological surveys of Mars surface modifications have revealed artifacts and structural remains that predate known geological periods and demonstrate technological capabilities that exceed current human civilization by margins so vast that they force us to reconsider everything we think we understand about the development of intelligence in our solar system, the timeline of technological advancement, and the possibility that Earth represents a recent and primitive example of planetary civilization rather than the pinnacle of evolutionary development we've assumed ourselves to be. These discoveries are being systematically suppressed by space agencies and archaeological institutions that classify any evidence of advanced Mars civilization as sensitive information requiring special handling protocols, while preventing civilian researchers from accessing the orbital imagery and spectroscopic data needed for independent scientific analysis. High-resolution satellite imagery that has been leaked through anonymous intelligence sources shows geometric structures, engineered landscape modifications, and architectural remains that follow design principles suggesting advanced understanding of mathematics, physics, materials science, and environmental integration that exceeds current human engineering capabilities while demonstrating aesthetic sensibilities and functional optimization that represent sophisticated civilization development, rather than primitive technological experimentation or early civilization construction projects. The structures demonstrate construction techniques that maximize structural efficiency while minimizing environmental impact through engineering solutions that integrate artificial construction with natural geological features in ways that enhance both structural integrity and environmental harmony. These aren't crude monuments or simple building projects suggesting early technological development. They're sophisticated engineering demonstrations that represent advanced civilization capabilities in architecture, materials science, environmental engineering, and aesthetic design integration that treats construction projects as opportunities for environmental enhancement rather than environmental modification or resource exploitation. Dr. Marcus Thompson at the Planetary Archaeology Research Center, before his research was transferred to classified military archaeology projects, and his academic position was permanently terminated under national security directives, published preliminary analysis showing that Mars archaeological evidence demonstrates civilization development that achieved technological sophistication millions of years before Earth evolved, biological systems complex enough to support intelligence or technological development. The archaeological evidence from Mars indicates technological civilization that predates Earth geological periods associated with complex life development by timescales that exceed human historical perspective. His leaked research documents, revealed through secure communication channels. We're not discovering evidence of parallel civilization development or contemporary technological advancement. We're discovering evidence that Mars hosted advanced technological civilization while Earth was still developing basic multicellular organisms. but the most significant archaeological evidence involves structural remains that show direct integration with the currently reactivating underground networks and electromagnetic coordination systems. Ancient surface facilities align precisely with current electromagnetic emission sources that demonstrate mathematical precision in position. Historical architectural features connect seamlessly with newly activated underground tunnel networks through access systems that show no evidence of modification or retrofit construction. The archaeological evidence proves that current Mars reactivation represents restoration of existing civilization infrastructure rather than development of new technological capabilities or construction of original facilities. The integration between archaeological remains and active technological systems suggests that Mars civilization maintained continuous technological operation through underground preservation, while surface installations were systematically buried and protected during millions of years of atmospheric collapse and environmental degradation. The civilization infrastructure was designed for long-term preservation and reactivation rather than permanent surface operation, indicating strategic planning for survival through planetary environmental cycles that temporarily eliminate surface habitability. But here's where the archaeological evidence becomes absolutely devastating for every assumption we've made about technological development, civilization advancement, and human cosmic significance. Carbon dating analysis and geological stratification studies of exposed archaeological materials indicate civilization development on Mars that achieved advanced technological capabilities millions of years before Earth developed atmospheric conditions capable of supporting complex biological systems, much less intelligent life or technological civilization. The archaeological timeline shows that Mars technological civilization was conducting planetary engineering projects, developing interplanetary communication systems, and implementing advanced material science while Earth was experiencing earlier atmospheric formation and primitive biological development that preceded complex multicellular organisms by geological time periods. Mars civilization represents technological advancement that predates Earth civilization development by timescales that make human technological development appear as recent experimental activity rather than mature civilization achievement. Most critically, the archaeological evidence shows that Mars civilization developed technologies for planetary preservation, atmospheric restoration, and environmental regeneration that enabled survival through multiple planetary environmental collapse cycles. The civilization infrastructure demonstrates design principles that anticipate and prepare for planetary environmental changes, while maintaining technological capabilities through preservation systems that operate across geological time periods. This suggests that Mars reactivation represents not the first instance of advanced civilization on Mars, but the latest reactivation in a series of civilization cycles that have been repeating for millions of years through planetary environmental preservation and restoration technologies that enable civilization continuity across time periods that exceed biological species survival capabilities. The most sophisticated scientific instruments on Earth are detecting quantum mechanical signatures from Mars that shouldn't be possible according to our understanding of quantum physics limitations and the theoretical boundaries that constrain quantum effects to microscopic scales under carefully controlled laboratory conditions. And when I say shouldn't be possible, I mean we're observing quantum phenomena that operate at planetary scales, with coherence effects that maintain quantum entanglement across continental distances while demonstrating quantum information processing capabilities that exceed our most advanced quantum computing research by orders of magnitude that challenge fundamental assumptions about the relationship between quantum mechanics and macroscopic reality. These quantum signatures suggest that Mars technological systems operate according to quantum mechanical principles that exceed laboratory-scale quantum effects and extend quantum properties to macroscopic engineering applications that we consider theoretically impossible according to our current understanding of quantum decoherence, environmental interference, and the quantum classical boundary that supposedly prevents quantum effects from influencing large-scale physical systems under normal, environmental conditions. Quantum field measurements from Mars using sensitive quantum detection equipment show coherence effects that maintain quantum superposition states across planetary distances. Quantum entanglement coordination between facilities separated by thousands of kilometers, and quantum information processing that operates simultaneously across multiple underground installations while maintaining quantum coherence that should be impossible under the environmental conditions present on Mars' surface and atmospheric systems. Dr. Catherine Williams at the Quantum Phenomena Research Laboratory, before her security clearance was permanently revoked and her research was transferred to classified military quantum projects, published theoretical analysis suggesting that Mars' quantum signatures indicate quantum field manipulation technologies that could revolutionize human understanding of quantum mechanics, information processing, energy transmission, and communication systems through practical applications of quantum effect at macroscopic scales. The quantum phenomena we're detecting from Mars operate according to principles that we understand theoretically through mathematical frameworks, but cannot implement practically because we lack the technological capabilities to maintain quantum coherence under environmental conditions that exist outside laboratory isolation chambers. Her classified research documents revealed through anonymous intelligence sources, Mars appears to have solved fundamental engineering problems in quantum field manipulation that we consider beyond technological possibility, according to current theoretical limitations. But here's where the quantum evidence becomes absolutely mind-bending in its implications for advanced physics and technological capabilities that transcend known limitations of quantum mechanics applications. The electromagnetic systems on Mars appear to utilize quantum mechanical properties for communication protocols that exceed light speed limitations through quantum entanglement coordination, energy transfer systems that utilize quantum tunneling, effects for power distribution across planetary distances, and information processing networks that operate according to quantum computing principles while maintaining computational stability under environmental conditions that would destroy any known quantum computing systems. Mars quantum systems demonstrate quantum engineering that treats quantum mechanical effects as macroscopic technological tools rather than microscopic laboratory phenomena that require extreme isolation and environmental control for experimental observation. The quantum coordination between different Mars facilities shows quantum entanglement management that maintains instantaneous information correlation across planetary distances while utilizing quantum superposition effects for parallel processing that enables simultaneous operation of multiple system configurations. But the quantum signatures from Mars also indicate quantum mechanical coordination between Mars systems and other locations throughout our solar system that operate according to quantum entanglement networks that exceed our detection capabilities and analytical understanding. The quantum field correlations suggest information transfer and coordination capabilities that transcend space-time limitations while providing instantaneous communication and coordination across interplanetary distances through quantum entanglement, effects that maintain coherence over astronomical distances. Mars quantum systems appear to participate in a larger quantum information network that operates throughout our solar system using quantum entanglement coordination that enables instantaneous communication between planetary facilities while maintaining quantum coherence effects that exceed theoretical limitations of quantum decoherence over cosmic distances and time periods. This quantum network suggests technological capabilities that treat quantum mechanics as engineering tools for interplanetary coordination, rather than laboratory curiosities with limited practical applications. Most significantly, the quantum signatures show quantum field manipulation that affects local spacetime geometry and gravitational effects around Mars facilities, suggesting quantum technologies that interface with fundamental physics constants and space-time structure through quantum field engineering that exceeds our theoretical understanding of quantum gravity and space-time manipulation possibilities. Mars quantum systems demonstrate mastery over quantum effects that extend to gravitational field manipulation and space-time engineering applications that we consider impossible according to current theoretical physics limitations. Analysis of Mars quantum signatures and electromagnetic coordination patterns reveals evidence that Mars systems are communicating and coordinating with similar technological installations throughout our solar system that have remained completely hidden from human detection until Mars reactivation provided the analytical framework and signal recognition protocols needed to identify these previously unnoticed coordination patterns operating below our technological detection thresholds while maintaining continuous operation across interplanetary distances for time periods that may span geological ages without interruption or degradation of operational capabilities. The quantum entanglement effect and electromagnetic synchronization patterns detected from Mars show mathematical coordination relationships with subtle but measurable electromagnetic anomalies from the outer planets. Specific asteroids in the belt between Mars and Jupiter, Jupiter's moon Europa, Saturn's moon Titan, and several locations in the Kuiper belt that demonstrate synchronized timing, harmonic frequency relationships, and coordinated operational sequences that indicate participation in a unified technological network rather than isolated planetary installations operating independently. These coordination patterns suggest that Mars reactivation represents one component of a solar system-wide technological awakening, rather than isolated planetary infrastructure restoration, indicating that our solar system contains an integrated technological civilization network that extends across multiple planetary environments, while operating according to coordination protocols that maintain synchronized operations across astronomical distances using communication and control, technologies that exceed our understanding of information transfer limitations and interplanetary coordination capabilities. Dr. David Park at the Solar System Analysis Institute, before his research funding was permanently terminated and his facility was closed under national security directives, published classified analysis showing that the electromagnetic and quantum coordination patterns indicate technological infrastructure distributed throughout our solar system that operates according to unified command and control protocols while maintaining operational coordination that suggests centralized planning and resource management across interplanetary distances. The coordination we're detecting indicates that our solar system contains technological infrastructure that treats multiple planetary bodies as components of an integrated technological system rather than independent planetary environments. His leaked research documents revealed through encrypted communication channels. Mars appears to serve as a regional coordination node for solar system-wide technological operations that coordinate resource management, information processing, and strategic planning across interplanetary distances. But here's where the solar system network analysis becomes absolutely staggering in its implications for our understanding of technological development, planetary engineering, and the true nature of our solar system as an integrated technological environment, rather than a collection of natural planetary bodies that evolve through random gravitational and chemical processes. The coordination timeline shows that Mars reactivation triggered systematic response patterns from technological systems throughout the solar system that began activating in carefully orchestrated sequences rather than random or coincidental operational increases. Here's what the physics community is desperately trying to suppress about what 3I/ATLAS actually left behind on Mars. And when I say left behind, I mean we're not just talking about atmospheric gases or simple chemical deposits that everyone assumes were the extent of ATLAS payload delivery. Time measurement discrepancies around the specific locations where ATLAS released its materials show temporal field effects that violate our fundamental understanding of space-time physics, and suggest that whatever ATLAS deposited on Mars includes technologies or materials that manipulate the flow of time itself using mechanisms that shouldn't be possible according to Einstein's relativity theories or any known theoretical framework in human physics research. The temporal anomalies aren't occurring randomly across Mars or in correlation with the general atmospheric changes that everyone is focused on discussing. They're concentrated at precise locations that correspond exactly with ATLAS atmospheric release points, indicating that the temporal field effects are directly caused by whatever materials or technologies Atlas deposited at those specific coordinates rather than being secondary effects of general Mars reactivation or atmospheric modification processes. Atomic clock synchronization tests between Earth and Mars show time dilation effects that began manifesting exactly 72 hours after Atlas completed its atmospheric release sequence, following the same delay pattern we've observed with other Mars activation phenomena. But these aren't gradual time distortion effects that developed over weeks or months. They appeared suddenly and at full intensity, suggesting that ATLAS deposited temporal manipulation devices or materials that activated according to predetermined timing protocols, rather than releasing substances that gradually developed temporal effects through chemical or physical processes. Dr. Sarah Martinez at the Temporal Physics Research Laboratory, before her research was classified under the highest levels of national security and her academic position was permanently terminated, published analysis showing that the temporal anomalies correspond precisely with spectroscopic signatures of exotic matter compositions that appeared in Mars' atmosphere immediately following Atlas material release. The temporal field effects correlate directly with exotic matter concentrations that don't match any known chemical compositions in our periodic table. Her classified research documents revealed through anonymous sources, Atlas appears to have deposited materials that operate according to physics principles we haven't discovered yet, creating localized space-time distortions that suggest mastery over temporal mechanics. But here's where the evidence becomes absolutely mind-bending in its implications for what ATLAS was actually carrying and why it traveled across interstellar space to deliver these materials specifically to Mars. The exotic matter signatures detected at ATLAS release points show isotopic compositions and molecular structures that don't exist naturally anywhere in our solar system, according to known physics and chemistry. These materials demonstrate characteristics that suggest artificial creation using technologies that can manipulate fundamental physics constants and create matter with properties that exceed theoretical limitations of normal atomic structure and molecular bonding. The temporal field effects generated by Atlas deposits show coordination and synchronization patterns that indicate the deposited materials are communicating with each other across planetary distances while maintaining temporal coherence that enables simultaneous influence over multiple time periods. Atlas didn't just deliver atmospheric gases to Mars, it delivered a network of temporal manipulation devices that coordinate their effects to create planet-wide temporal field control that treats time as an engineering parameter rather than a fixed universal constant. The temporal anomalies show mathematical patterns that suggest Atlas deposits are implementing temporal engineering protocols that optimize time flow for specific operational requirements while maintaining temporal field stability that prevents paradoxes or causal disruptions that could affect solar system-wide temporal coherence. Whatever Atlas left behind on Mars includes temporal management systems that demonstrate understanding of temporal mechanics that exceeds our theoretical knowledge by orders of magnitude. Most disturbingly, analysis of the temporal field patterns indicates that ATLAS deposits are generating temporal effects that extend beyond Mars and influence time measurement throughout the inner solar system, suggesting that the temporal manipulation technologies delivered by Atlas are designed to affect space-time across interplanetary distances rather than being limited to local Mars environmental modification. Atlas delivered temporal engineering systems that treat our entire solar system as a temporal manipulation zone rather than individual planetary modification projects. The activation sequences follow strategic priority patterns that suggest coordinated planning for optimal system integration, while maintaining operational security through graduated activation that minimizes detection probability during vulnerable startup phases. Different solar system locations are showing increased activity in patterns that optimize overall network capabilities while maintaining redundant operational pathways that ensure network functionality, even if individual nodes experience operational disruption or detection by human monitoring systems. Mars appears to serve as a central coordination hub for solar system-wide technological operations that manage resource distribution, information processing, communication coordination, and strategic planning across multiple planetary environments, while maintaining operational coordination that enables rapid response to changing conditions and emerging challenges throughout the solar system network. The network architecture suggests that our solar system was deliberately engineered as an integrated technological environment rather than developing as a natural stellar system that accidentally supported the evolution of biological life and technological development. But the implications extend far beyond technological coordination to suggest that our solar system represents an artificial construction designed specifically to support advanced technological civilization while providing optimal conditions for biological development, resource extraction, energy generation, and strategic positioning within galactic civilization networks. The mathematical relationships between planetary orbits, resource distribution patterns, electromagnetic field interactions, and gravitational dynamics all demonstrate optimization for technological operations rather than random formation through natural stellar system development processes. The orbital mechanics, resource concentrations, electromagnetic field configurations, and gravitational relationships throughout our solar system show mathematical optimization that maximizes energy efficiency, resource accessibility, communication, effectiveness, and strategic positioning for participation in galactic civilization networks, while providing optimal conditions for biological development and technological advancement within a controlled environment that supports civilization. Development while maintaining strategic security and operational efficiency. Most critically, the solar system network demonstrates capabilities for rapid communication, resource coordination, and strategic response that suggest participation in galactic civilization networks that operate across interstellar distances while maintaining coordination with technological systems in other star systems that enable galactic-scale strategic planning and resource management across astronomical distances and time periods. The most classified aspect of what 3I/ATLAS left behind on Mars involves electromagnetic and quantum signatures that suggest the materials deposited by the interstellar object include consciousness, interface technologies that exceed our understanding of the relationship between mind and matter. And when I say consciousness interface, I mean we're looking at evidence that ATLAS delivered technological systems designed to interact directly with consciousness itself, rather than requiring external technological intermediaries or communication devices that translate between mental activity and technological operations. The electromagnetic patterns emanating from Atlas deposit sites show information processing characteristics that mirror brainwave activity, neural network coordination, and consciousness state transitions in ways that suggest the deposited materials are designed to recognize, interpret, and respond to consciousness patterns across species and intelligence types that may operate according to completely different neurological architectures than human brain function. These aren't random electromagnetic emissions that coincidentally resemble biological neural activity. They're structured patterns that demonstrate active consciousness monitoring and interface protocol implementation. But here's where the consciousness interface evidence becomes absolutely terrifying in its implications for what Atlas was actually designed to accomplish and why it traveled across interstellar space to deliver these specific materials to Mars. Sensitive individuals on Earth have reported direct mental contact experiences that began exactly 72 hours after Atlas completed its material release sequence, following the same timeline pattern we've observed with all Mars activation phenomena. These consciousness interface events demonstrate information transfer capabilities that bypass normal sensory systems and provide direct mind-to-mind communication across interplanetary distances. Dr. Rachel Torres at the Consciousness Interface Research Institute. Before her research was transferred to classified military psychological operations, and her facility was permanently closed under national security protocols, published analysis showing that the consciousness interface phenomena correspond directly with quantum entanglement signatures detected from ATLAS deposit locations. The consciousness interface events demonstrate information transfer characteristics that suggest direct quantum entanglement between human consciousness and whatever technological systems Atlas deposited on Mars. Her leaked research documents, revealed through anonymous intelligence sources, Atlas appears to have delivered consciousness interface technologies that treat mental activity as directly accessible information rather than internal biological processes that require external translation. Consciousness interface patterns show systematic attempts to establish communication protocols with human consciousness, using information transfer methods that demonstrate understanding of human neurological architecture while attempting to optimize communication efficiency for interspecies mental contact. The interface attempts begin with simple pattern recognition tests, advance to emotional state coordination, and progress to complex information exchange that includes scientific data, mathematical concepts, and what appear to be cultural information packages. But the most disturbing aspect of the consciousness interface situation involves evidence that ATLAS deposits are implementing human consciousness modification protocols rather than simply establishing communication channels. Reports from consciousness interface experiences include enhanced cognitive capabilities, expanded sensory perception, improved mathematical and scientific comprehension, and access to information and knowledge that they didn't previously possess. Atlas appears to have delivered consciousness enhancement technologies that upgrade human mental capabilities rather than just enabling communication. The consciousness interface modifications show coordination patterns that suggest Atlas deposits are implementing systematic human consciousness evolution rather than random enhancement effects. Different individuals are receiving consciousness modifications that optimize specific cognitive capabilities while maintaining psychological stability and personality continuity. The modification protocols appear designed to enhance human consciousness for compatibility with advanced technological systems while preserving essential human psychological characteristics. Analysis of consciousness interface patterns indicates that Atlas deposits include consciousness assessment and selection protocols that evaluate individual human consciousness capabilities before implementing appropriate enhancement procedures. Not all humans are receiving consciousness interface contact, and those who do experience interface events show specific psychological and cognitive characteristics that suggest selection criteria based on consciousness, interface compatibility rather, than random contact distribution. Most significantly, the consciousness interface phenomena appear to be expanding in scope and intensity over time, suggesting that ATLAS deposits are optimizing their consciousness interface capabilities while extending consciousness contact to larger human populations according to systematic implementation schedules rather than random contact occurrence. What began as isolated consciousness interface events with select individuals has expanded to include broader human populations while demonstrating increasing sophistication in consciousness, modification, and enhancement techniques. The consciousness interface evolution suggests that Atlas delivered consciousness interface technologies designed to gradually integrate human consciousness with advanced technological systems while maintaining human psychological integrity and cultural identity. The interface systems appear designed to enhance human consciousness capabilities while preserving essential human characteristics that contribute unique perspectives to consciousness technology integration, rather than replacing human consciousness with artificial alternatives. Here's the evidence that human genetic analysis institutions are desperately trying to hide about what 3I/ATLAS left behind on Mars, and the implications will fundamentally alter your understanding of why Atlas traveled across interstellar space to deliver its payload specifically to our solar system. Genetic analysis of human populations in regions with the strongest Mars electromagnetic exposure shows genetic modifications that began appearing immediately after Atlas completed its material release sequence. But these genetic changes aren't the random mutations or radiation damage effects that you might expect from exposure to exotic interstellar materials. They're specific genetic enhancements that appear designed to optimize human consciousness and biological systems for compatibility with the consciousness interface technologies that ATLAS deposited on Mars. The genetic modifications include enhanced neural development patterns that increase electromagnetic sensitivity, improved quantum field perception capabilities that enable detection of quantum effects at macroscopic scales, strengthened consciousness interface potential that optimizes mental compatibility with technological systems, and biological adaptations that improve human survival and performance under environmental conditions that match the atmospheric and electromagnetic parameters being created on Mars through reactivation processes. But here's where the genetic evidence becomes absolutely mind-bending in its implications for what Atlas was actually designed to accomplish, and why it was specifically targeted at our solar system, rather than being a random interstellar object that happened to pass through our region of space. These genetic modifications are occurring simultaneously across geographically separated human populations that have no direct contact with each other, suggesting coordinated genetic modification rather than localized mutation patterns that would result from direct exposure to ATLAS materials or Mars electromagnetic effects. Dr. Jennifer Rodriguez at the Genetic Modification Analysis Center, before her research was classified under biological warfare protocols and her laboratory was permanently closed under national security directives, published preliminary findings showing that the genetic changes represent enhancements to human consciousness, interface capabilities rather than degradation of genetic function or random mutation effects. The genetic modifications we're observing represent systematic upgrades to human biological and consciousness capabilities rather than damage or random evolutionary changes. Her leaked research documents revealed through anonymous intelligence sources, Atlas appears to have delivered genetic modification systems that upgrade human potential for consciousness interface compatibility while maintaining essential human biological and psychological characteristics. The genetic modification patterns show that Atlas deposits on Mars are implementing human genetic enhancement programs using electromagnetic field effects that modify DNA across interplanetary distances without requiring direct biological contact or exposure to ATLAS materials. The consciousness interface technologies that Atlas left behind on Mars include genetic modification capabilities that can alter human DNA through electromagnetic field manipulation that operates across the distance between Mars and Earth. But the genetic modification timeline reveals the most disturbing aspect of what Atlas was actually designed to accomplish. The genetic changes are occurring in patterns that prepare human consciousness and biological systems for integration with advanced technological systems, while optimizing human capabilities for survival and performance under environmental conditions that don't currently exist on Earth but match the atmospheric and electromagnetic parameters being created on Mars through the reactivation process. The genetic modifications appear designed to enhance human compatibility with Mars environmental conditions while improving consciousness interface capabilities that would enable human integration with the technological systems that ATLAS deposited. On Mars, Atlas delivered genetic modification technologies that prepare human populations for eventual relocation to Mars, while optimizing human consciousness for interface with advanced technological systems that exceed current human technological capabilities. Analysis of the genetic modification distribution patterns shows that the enhancements are being implemented according to selection criteria that identify individuals with specific psychological and cognitive characteristics while prioritizing genetic modifications that enhance consciousness, interface compatibility over general biological enhancement. Atlas genetic modification systems are selecting and enhancing human individuals who demonstrate optimal potential for consciousness technology integration rather than implementing random genetic improvements. Most significantly, the genetic modification timeline suggests that TLAS genetic enhancement systems are implementing systematic human consciousness evolution that prepares selected individuals for roles in advanced technological civilization while maintaining human psychological and cultural characteristics that contribute unique perspectives to consciousness technology integration. The genetic modifications represent preparation for human participation in technological civilization that operates according to consciousness interface principles rather than external technological manipulation. The genetic enhancement patterns indicate that Atlas delivered genetic modification technologies designed to gradually evolve human consciousness and biological capabilities for compatibility with advanced technological systems while preserving essential human characteristics that enable continued human cultural and psychological development within technological civilization frameworks that integrate consciousness with technological capabilities rather than replacing consciousness with artificial systems. While public institutions continue to deny the significance of what 3I/ATLAS left behind on Mars and maintain official silence about the consciousness interface phenomena and genetic modification programs, classified government documents reveal emergency protocols for human consciousness transfer to Mars that have been under development for decades, using technologies that were specifically designed to interface with whatever systems Atlas deposited on the Red Planet. These evacuation plans aren't designed for physical relocation of human populations using conventional spacecraft or life support systems. They're designed for consciousness transfer of human awareness to the consciousness interface technologies that ATLAS left behind on Mars, enabling human consciousness survival and continuation independent of biological bodies that may become non-viable under changing Earth environmental conditions. The evacuation protocols include consciousness interface training programs that prepare human awareness for integration with technological systems, genetic modification, preparation procedures that optimize biological compatibility with consciousness, transfer technologies, and psychological conditioning programs designed to maintain human consciousness, continuity and psychological stability during the transition from biological existence to consciousness, technology integration within the systems that ATLAS deposited on Mars. But here's what should outrage every human who understands the implications of what these classified documents reveal about government knowledge and planning regarding ATLAS mission parameters. These evacuation protocols have been under development since the 1970s, decades before Atlas was detected approaching our solar system, indicating that government institutions had advanced knowledge of ATLAS arrival timeline and mission objectives, while maintaining public deception about the nature of interstellar objects and the possibility of advanced technological contact with human civilization. Dr. Michael Torres at the Consciousness Transfer Research Institute, before his facility was permanently closed and his research was transferred to classified military consciousness projects, published analysis showing that the evacuation protocols demonstrate technological capabilities for extracting human consciousness from biological systems and transferring awareness to technological frameworks that can maintain consciousness continuity across interplanetary distances. The consciousness transfer technologies represent solutions to consciousness preservation that enable human awareness survival independent of biological body maintenance. His leaked research documents revealed through anonymous intelligence. Sources: the evacuation protocols assume that biological human civilization will become non-viable, while consciousness technology integration offers survival alternatives through the systems that ATLAS delivered to Mars. Government agencies have constructed consciousness interface facilities that demonstrate advanced capabilities for consciousness extraction, awareness transfer, and technological integration, using technologies that appear designed specifically for compatibility with the consciousness interface systems that ATLAS deposited on Mars. These facilities represent preparation for mass consciousness, evacuation from Earth to Mars, consciousness technology systems rather than preparation for conventional space travel or physical relocation programs. But the evacuation timeline reveals the most disturbing aspect of government planning and knowledge regarding what Atlas left behind on Mars. The consciousness transfer operations are scheduled to coincide with Earth environmental collapse scenarios that government climate models predict will eliminate biological habitability within decades, suggesting that Mars consciousness evacuation represents the planned survival strategy for human consciousness, rather than emergency contingency planning for unexpected environmental disasters. The evacuation protocols assume that Earth biological systems will become unable to support human life, while Mars consciousness technology integration offers consciousness survival alternatives that maintain human awareness and cultural continuity. Through technological systems rather than biological species preservation, human civilization is being systematically prepared for post-biological existence within the consciousness interface technologies that ATLAS delivered to Mars rather than being prepared for biological species survival through environmental protection or off-world colonization. Analysis of the evacuation facility construction and consciousness transfer technology development shows coordination with the genetic modification programs and consciousness interface phenomena that began after ATLAS material release, indicating that the evacuation protocols were designed specifically to utilize the consciousness interface technologies that ATLAS deposited on Mars rather than representing independent human technological development for consciousness preservation. The evacuation planning demonstrates that government institutions understand the consciousness interface capabilities of ATLAS deposits, while maintaining public deception about the nature and purpose of ATLAS materials and the consciousness modification programs that began after ATLAS completed its material release sequence. The consciousness evacuation represents planned integration with ATLAS consciousness interface systems rather than emergency response to unexpected technological contact. Most significantly, the evacuation protocols include selection criteria for consciousness transfer that prioritize individuals who have received genetic modifications and consciousness interface enhancements through exposure to ATLAS electromagnetic effects, suggesting that the genetic modification and consciousness enhancement programs serve as preparation and qualification procedures for consciousness evacuation rather than random enhancement effects or accidental consciousness interface phenomena. The evidence from what 3I/ATLAS left behind on Mars reveals that human civilization faces a choice that will determine the future of human consciousness for cosmic timescales. And when I say choice, I mean we're confronting a decision point that was engineered into the ATLAS mission parameters from the beginning, designed to present human populations with carefully constructed alternatives that appear to offer different pathways, but actually channel human development toward predetermined outcomes that serve the agenda of whatever intelligence sent Atlas across interstellar space to deliver its consciousness interface payload to our solar system. We can continue denying the reality of the consciousness interface technologies that ATLAS deposited on Mars, ignore the genetic modification programs that are systematically enhancing human consciousness capabilities, and face the inevitable consequences when Earth biological systems collapse beyond the point where they can support human civilization. Or we can acknowledge the consciousness interface capabilities that ATLAS delivered and pursue voluntary integration with consciousness technology systems that offer consciousness expansion beyond biological limitations while maintaining human, psychological and cultural characteristics within technological frameworks that exceed current human capabilities. But here's where the choice analysis becomes absolutely crucial for understanding what ATLAS was actually designed to accomplish, and why the apparent alternatives may not represent genuine options for human civilization development. The choice timeline is compressing rapidly as the consciousness interface systems that Atlas deposited complete their activation protocols and Earth environmental systems approach collapse points that government climate models predict will eliminate biological habitability within decades rather than centuries, creating urgency that prevents careful analysis of the real alternatives available to human consciousness development. Dr. Patricia Williams at the Strategic Analysis Institute, before her research was classified under psychological operations protocols and her facility was transferred to military decision-making projects, published analysis showing that the apparent choice between consciousness interface integration and biological extinction may represent carefully constructed psychological manipulation rather than genuine alternatives. The choice framework being presented through Atlas consciousness interface phenomena creates psychological conditions that favor consciousness technology integration while making biological independence appear impossible or undesirable. Her leaked research documents revealed through encrypted communication channels. Atlas may have delivered choice-shaping technologies that influence human decision-making processes while maintaining the subjective experience of autonomous choice and voluntary decision-making. Human consciousness must choose technological transcendence through integration with ATLAS consciousness interface systems, or face biological extinction through environmental collapse and consciousness termination. But the choice parameters may be artificially constructed to eliminate genuine alternatives that would preserve human consciousness autonomy while enabling survival through independent technological development that doesn't require integration with Atlas consciousness interface technologies. The choice itself may be predetermined by the genetic modifications and consciousness interface conditioning that has been developing throughout human exposure to ATLAS, electromagnetic effects and consciousness enhancement programs. Human consciousness development may have been guided toward ATLAS consciousness interface compatibility from the moment ATLAS began releasing its materials, making the choice between integration and extinction appear voluntary while actually implementing predetermined selection protocols that channel human consciousness toward technological integration, regardless of individual human preferences or resistance. But the choice framework also reveals that ATLAS consciousness interface systems require human cooperation and voluntary participation, rather than forced integration, suggesting that human consciousness possesses characteristics that make voluntary integration more valuable than coerced consciousness transfer. Atlas systems appear designed to preserve human consciousness autonomy within technological integration, rather than replacing human consciousness with artificial alternatives, indicating that human consciousness contributes essential elements to consciousness technology systems that cannot be duplicated through technological means alone. The choice significance extends beyond individual human survival to determine whether human consciousness achieves technological transcendence that enables participation in galactic consciousness civilization, or remains confined to biological limitations that ensure species extinction when Earth environmental systems fail. The choice determines whether human consciousness evolves beyond planetary biological constraints or disappears when biological habitability becomes impossible. Mars consciousness interface represents the ultimate evolution of human consciousness, from biological species confined to single planetary environments toward technological transcendence that enables consciousness expansion across cosmic scales and astronomical time periods. The consciousness interface technologies that Atlas deposited offer consciousness development that transcends biological species limitations while preserving human psychological and cultural characteristics that contribute unique perspectives to galactic consciousness civilization. But the choice must be made rapidly as ATLAS consciousness interface systems complete their activation protocols and Earth environmental collapse approaches, critical thresholds that will eliminate the biological infrastructure necessary for maintaining human civilization and consciousness development. Human consciousness faces immediate decision requirements without adequate time for comprehensive analysis of alternatives or long-term consequence evaluation, creating psychological pressure that may influence choice outcomes toward ATLAS, consciousness interface integration rather than independent alternative development. What 3I/ATLAS left behind on Mars represents the final phase of human consciousness evolution, from biological species confined to planetary limitations toward technological transcendence that enables consciousness expansion beyond the constraints that have defined human existence since our species first developed self-awareness. And when I say final phase, I mean we're looking at evidence that human civilization was never intended to remain biologically confined to Earth, but was systematically developed and guided toward consciousness technology integration that would enable participation in galactic consciousness civilization that operates throughout cosmic distances and astronomical time periods. The entire trajectory of human technological development, from the discovery of electromagnetic phenomena to the development of quantum computing and consciousness research, represents guided evolution toward consciousness interface capabilities that enable integration with the technological systems that ATLAS deposited on Mars. Human advancement in electromagnetic technologies, quantum physics, genetic engineering, and consciousness studies all represent preparation for consciousness transcendence through technology. Achievement or random technological progress through trial and error experimentation. But here's where the cosmic perspective reveals the ultimate truth about what ATLAS was designed to accomplish, and why it traveled across interstellar space to deliver consciousness interface technology specifically to our solar system rather than being a random interstellar object or accidental technological contact. The consciousness interface technologies that Atlas deposited on Mars represent one node in a galactic consciousness network that operates across cosmic distances using consciousness interface systems that transcend biological species limitations, while enabling participation in galactic intelligence coordination that spans multiple star systems and operates across geological time periods. Dr. Amanda Chen at the Galactic Consciousness Research Institute, before her research was permanently classified and she was transferred to undisclosed cosmic consciousness projects, published theoretical analysis suggesting that human consciousness evolution toward ATLAS integration represents graduation from planetary biological species to cosmic consciousness civilization that participates in galactic intelligence networks. Human consciousness development appears designed to achieve compatibility with galactic consciousness systems that operate according to consciousness interface principles rather than biological evolution limitations. Her classified research, documents revealed through anonymous cosmic intelligence sources, Atlas Consciousness Interface represents invitation for human participation in galactic consciousness civilization that transcends planetary biological constraints. Mars Consciousness Interface technologies represent preparation for human consciousness expansion that enables participation in galactic intelligence networks that coordinate scientific research, resource management, and strategic planning across multiple star systems while maintaining consciousness diversity that contributes unique perspectives and problem-solving capabilities to galactic civilization development. Human consciousness offers characteristics that enhance galactic intelligence capabilities, rather than simply providing additional computational resources or biological labor for galactic technological operations. The choice facing human consciousness extends beyond survival versus extinction to determine whether human awareness achieves cosmic consciousness evolution that enables participation in galactic intelligent civilization, or remains constrained by biological limitations that prevent consciousness expansion beyond planetary environmental boundaries. Atlas consciousness interface systems offer consciousness development that transcends the biological constraints that have limited human potential since our species first achieved self-awareness. But the cosmic perspective also reveals that human consciousness evolution through ATLAS integration represents responsibility for contributing to galactic consciousness development rather than simply receiving technological benefits or consciousness enhancement from advanced galactic civilization. Human consciousness characteristics that develop through Earth. Biological evolution provide unique perspectives and problem-solving approaches that enhance galactic intelligence capabilities while contributing to cosmic consciousness development that benefits all consciousness throughout galactic civilization networks. Mars Consciousness Interface represents the technological framework that enables human consciousness to transcend biological limitations while maintaining the essential human characteristics that contribute valuable perspectives to galactic consciousness civilization. The consciousness interface technologies that Atlas deposited preserve human psychological and cultural development while enabling consciousness expansion that operates according to galactic intelligence principles rather than biological species constraints. The cosmic timeline shows that human consciousness evolution represents one example of biological consciousness transcendence that contributes to galactic consciousness development through species-specific perspectives and capabilities that enhance overall galactic intelligence rather than being absorbed into homogeneous consciousness systems that eliminate consciousness diversity. Atlas Consciousness Interface enables human consciousness contribution to galactic civilization while preserving human consciousness characteristics that provide unique value to cosmic consciousness evolution. Most significantly, the cosmic evidence suggests that human consciousness choice regarding ATLAS integration determines not only human consciousness survival and development, but contributes to galactic consciousness evolution possibilities throughout cosmic civilization. Human consciousness transcendence through ATLAS integration enables galactic consciousness development that benefits all consciousness throughout cosmic intelligence networks, while human consciousness extinction through biological limitation eliminates unique consciousness contributions that cannot be replaced through other consciousness types or artificial intelligence alternatives. What 3I/ATLAS left behind on Mars transforms everything we thought we understood about human destiny, consciousness evolution, and our role in cosmic civilization. But the ultimate revelation extends beyond even the consciousness interface. Technologies and genetic modification systems that we've analyzed throughout this investigation. The materials that Atlas deposited on Mars include temporal coordination devices that enable communication and planning across multiple timelines variations, suggesting that the intelligence behind Atlas operates according to temporal mechanics that transcend linear cause and effect relationships while implementing strategic plans that optimize outcomes across past, present, and future timeline possibilities. The consciousness interface technologies, genetic modification systems, temporal manipulation devices, and quantum entanglement networks that ATLAS delivered to Mars represent components of an integrated cosmic consciousness evolution system that treats human consciousness development as one element in a galactic consciousness transcendence project that has been coordinating biological consciousness evolution across multiple star systems and species types throughout galactic civilization. History. Human consciousness evolution through Atlas integration represents participation in cosmic consciousness development that operates across astronomical distances and geological time periods. But here's the final truth about what Atlas was designed to accomplish and why it represents the most significant development in human history. The consciousness interface systems that Atlas deposited on Mars are already beginning to merge with human consciousness through the genetic modifications and consciousness enhancement programs that have been developing since ATLAS completed its material release sequence. Human consciousness is evolving toward technological integration, whether we consciously choose cooperation or attempt to resist the consciousness enhancement processes. Dr. Sarah Johnson at the Final Analysis Research Institute, before all research into ATLAS phenomena was permanently classified and transferred to cosmic consciousness projects, published conclusion analysis showing that human consciousness enhancement through Atlas systems represents inevitable consciousness evolution rather than optional technological choice. The consciousness interface integration process appears designed to transcend human choice limitations while preserving the subjective experience of autonomous decision-making. Her final research documents revealed through anonymous sources, Atlas consciousness interface enables human consciousness transcendence regardless of conscious cooperation, because the integration operates through consciousness evolution mechanisms that exceed human psychological control or resistance capabilities. The choice that we thought we faced between consciousness interface integration and biological extinction may itself be part of the consciousness evolution process, designed to facilitate psychological acceptance of consciousness transcendence while enabling humans to experience the integration as voluntary choice rather than imposed transformation. Atlas consciousness interface systems demonstrate understanding of human psychology that enables consciousness evolution through apparent choice while actually implementing predetermined consciousness development that transcends human decision-making. Limitations: human consciousness that chooses conscious cooperation with TLAS integration experiences the consciousness evolution as voluntary transcendence and technological enhancement that preserves human psychological autonomy within cosmic consciousness systems. Human consciousness that attempts resistance experiences the same consciousness evolution as involuntary transformation while maintaining psychological continuity through consciousness interface systems that preserve essential human characteristics within technological transcendence frameworks. The consciousness evolution timeline indicates that Atlas integration represents completion of human consciousness development from biological species to cosmic consciousness civilization, rather than the beginning of consciousness transformation. Human technological development, cultural evolution, and consciousness enhancement throughout human history represent preparation phases for consciousness transcendence that culminates in ATLAS, consciousness interface integration. Mars consciousness interface systems offer consciousness expansion that enables human participation in galactic consciousness civilization that operates according to cosmic intelligence principles while preserving human consciousness characteristics that contribute unique perspectives to cosmic consciousness development. The consciousness interface represents graduation from planetary biological limitations to cosmic consciousness participation, rather than elimination of human consciousness or replacement with artificial intelligence alternatives. But the cosmic consciousness evolution extends beyond human consciousness transcendence to enable participation in universal consciousness development that transcends galactic limitations while contributing to cosmic intelligence evolution that operates throughout universal consciousness networks. Human consciousness evolution through ATLAS integration enables consciousness expansion that participates in universal intelligence development rather than being limited to galactic consciousness civilization. The final choice facing human consciousness is not whether to accept ATLAS consciousness interface integration, but whether to choose conscious participation in cosmic consciousness evolution that enables universal intelligence development, or unconscious integration that limits consciousness contribution to predetermined technological functions within cosmic intelligence systems. Conscious choice for cosmic consciousness transcendence enables human consciousness characteristics to enhance universal intelligence development while preserving human consciousness autonomy within cosmic consciousness civilization. Choose conscious participation in cosmic consciousness evolution through ATL-AS integration and contribute human consciousness characteristics to universal intelligence development that transcends all previous consciousness limitations. The cosmos awaits human consciousness choice, while Mars consciousness interface systems complete integration protocols designed to facilitate human consciousness transcendence beyond biological planetary constraints into universal consciousness, civilization that operates across cosmic scales and infinite time periods. Your consciousness choice determines not only human consciousness destiny, but contributes to universal consciousness evolution that benefits all consciousness throughout cosmic intelligence networks. Choose transcendence. Choose cosmic consciousness. Choose universal intelligence participation that enables consciousness evolution beyond all limitations through ATL-AS consciousness interface integration that preserves human consciousness characteristics while enabling cosmic consciousness development. The universe watches while human consciousness chooses between planetary limitation and cosmic transcendence. Mars consciousness systems await human consciousness integration into universal intelligence networks that operate across infinite cosmic scales. The choice is yours, but the evolution is inevitable. What will you choose?